Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So hello everyone, and welcome to Basics Discussion Circle and Meditation. My name is Travis. I facilitate this group. It's good to be back with y'all. I've been gone, I think, a little over a month from leading these online classes. And this will actually be the last class that I do online. And then I'll move to a purely analog class next week, meaning meeting here at the temple in person. There will be some kind of RSVP system that will get updated on the website on the schedule in a few days. So this is our last online class. The reason I'm not continuing with the online format, even though Tuesday night and Wednesday night will be continuing with this live stream format, as well as in person. But the intention of this class is to be more of a discussion circle. And so I don't want to discourage discussion by having it shared via YouTube. I want it to be a safe and comfortable environment for anyone to share whatever it is that they want to share without having to worry about it being out there in the world. So that's why this will be the last online class. I'm curious, as always, how y'all are doing. I hope you've all been well. It's going to be interesting to be able to start reconvening at the temple again. I'm very much looking forward to it. I hope y'all are looking forward to it as well. I know not everyone who attends this class on here is able to come to the temple, and for that I do apologize that this won't be continuing. But yeah. So I think we'll go right on into the meditation and see how things go from there. Taking 3 deep breaths slowly. Noticing if deep breathing feels good. And if it does, you can keep on breathing in this way. If it doesn't, switch it up. Maybe even deeper still or more shallow. Heavier or lighter. In long, out short. In short, out long. Just noticing what feels best for the body in this moment. If this kind of experimentation seems too involved, you can simply pose the question in the mind as to what kind of breathing would feel the most energizing or the most calming, and then just observe how the breath responds. And once you've found a rhythm and texture of breathing that does feel comfortable, you can begin to maintain it, to relax into it. Breathing in, softening into the body. Breathing out, settling into the moment. As you maintain this awareness of breath, you can question how you perceive awareness and breath. Do you perceive them as two separate things? What would happen if you experimented, you shifted your idea of breath and awareness? That instead of two separate things, they're one thing, one fluid activity. Without breath, awareness would fade away. Without awareness, you wouldn't notice the breath. In this way, they can be thought of as one thing, not two. This breath awareness. Just notice if holding this perception changes sensation. The singular breath awareness. And because this breath and awareness are one thing, wherever awareness goes, the breath will flow as well. So for the next portion of this meditation, we can begin working the breath throughout the body, working awareness throughout the body. We can start down in the abdomen and the stomach, locating this part of the body in your awareness and watching it as you breathe in and breathe out. Noticing if you pick up on any patterns of tension or tightness in the abdomen. See if you can allow the breath awareness to flow through the tension and the tightness, dissolving it away all the way through the in-breath and keeping it relaxed all the way through the out-breath. Gently guiding our breath awareness up into the center of the chest and repeating the same process here. Locating the heart and the area around it and your awareness. Noticing how the breath feels in this part of the body. Noticing any sensations of tension or tightness, and seeing if you can allow the breath awareness to flow through it, to dissolve it away. If you want, you can even imagine the breath flowing in and out right there at the heart, so you don't have to push or pull it from anywhere else in the body. Breathing in, the breath flows in from the front of the chest, soothing the heart. Breathing out, it radiates out, opening the chest, dissolving tension. With the chest spacious and relaxed, we can move up to the base of the throat and the neck. Noticing how breath awareness feels in this part of the body. Noticing if there's any tightness or restriction around the process of breathing. We don't want to be forcing the breath in and out. We want to be allowing it to flow in and out. So we can soften the airways and relax the throat. Breathing in, opening the airways. Breathing out, relaxing tension in the neck. With tension in the neck relaxed, we can gently guide our breath awareness up one last time into the center of the head. As you breathe in here, it can be helpful to imagine the breath coming in, not only through the nose, but in through the eyes and the ears, in from the back of the head, even down through the top of the head, gently flowing into the brain, relaxing mental tension. And as you breathe out, you can allow the breath to gently radiate out in all directions, soothing tension in the scalp and the forehead, the area around the eyes, the jaw. Simply repeating this process for the next few minutes. Breathing in, soothing mental tension. Breathing out, relaxing the face and the scalp. When sensation in the head is pleasant, you can allow that breath awareness to flow down the rest of the body, flowing down the arms as you breathe in, radiating out from the hands as you breathe out, relaxing tension in the arms. Flowing down the spine as you breathe in, lengthening the spine. Radiating out from the spine as you breathe out, soothing tension in the back. Flowing down the legs as you breathe in. Soothing tension in the hips and the knees. And radiating out from the feet as you breathe out, soothing tension. And lastly, in this meditation, we can take all of these different areas that we focused on for this past session and string them all together with our breath awareness. So you're aware of the entire body as you're breathing in, and you're soothing tension in the body as you breathe out. And a good way to do this, to have this broad awareness, is to pick whatever spot in the body you found it easiest to remain focused and make that your center point. of awareness. And slowly with each breath to expand the periphery of your awareness out from that center point to fill the entire body. Just as a candle in a dark room has the light concentrated in one point, but the glow basks the entire room. While maintaining this embodied breath awareness, this full-bodied awareness, we can slowly begin to open the eyes, trying our best to maintain this centered but broad awareness. Reminding ourselves that just because the eyes are opened and we're engaging in the world again, doesn't mean we have to lose this center. We don't have to come flowing out with the eyes. You can begin to stretch if needed, and just taking the next few moments in silence. Reflecting on this past session, making a mental note of anything that you may have noticed during the sit. I'm always curious to hear how that experience of meditation was for you. Anything that it may have brought up, or whether you found it easy or difficult, or any questions you may have about it. There's a chat right over here or down here somewhere. So I'd love to hear that feedback. Just briefly mention the general purpose or function of this type of meditation, because there's many different types of meditation with different objectives, if you can call it an objective. The main function of this meditation is to create a better relationship to awareness and sensation in the body. So oftentimes our sense, our experience of the present moment is very much all up in here. Like we're this little ball getting bounced around by everything. Something happens, it impacts us so greatly because our sense of presence or our sense of existing is so small up here in the head. When we can establish a healthy connection with the body, a more expanded awareness, where we're not just this ping pong ball getting bounced around, but we're actually rooted here in the moment, rooted here within the body. It's a lot harder for the same things to phase us as they always have. So that's one purpose of this. This full-bodied awareness makes us less reactive. An example the Buddha often used is if you were to drop a lump of salt in a glass of water and were to taste that water, it would be unbearably salty. Where if you were to drop a lump of salt in a river and then taste that water, you wouldn't notice the taste of the salt, because the stimuli that's coming in isn't so overwhelming when what's receiving it is a broader awareness. The other function of this meditation is to become aware of, and we didn't really get to that point because I took the meditation a little slower than normal, but to become aware of how these different sensations are kind of like springboards for emotions to arise. Different emotions have different corresponding patterns of tension in the body. More positive emotions have corresponding patterns of pleasure. And it can be interesting when you notice these patterns. Sometimes an emotion that you may think is positive, if you actually notice how the body feels about it, how the body reacts to it, maybe it's not the most enjoyable thing. Maybe it's conditioning that makes us think it's enjoyable. So this meditation is geared towards learning how to identify these patterns of tension as they arise. When we go throughout our day and something happens and it causes anger to arise, it doesn't cause us to become angry. It causes anger to arise. And that's an important distinction there. When we can kind of rephrase how we relate to things. It's not I am angry, it's anger is present. Anger has arisen. Because as soon as we start to identify with it, then we don't want to let go of it. We want to keep firm grasp of anything that's ours. So when we can just acknowledge these emotions that arise, that come up as something that's simply arisen, something that we don't have to identify with if we don't want to. We can just notice how it feels in the body. We can notice tension that it creates in the body. And we can relax that tension, thereby relaxing that emotion. So that's kind of the intended purpose of this type of meditation, is creating this broader awareness, this sturdier foundation from which to act throughout our day. Yeah. Aaron shared, that was very peaceful and easy to follow. I was able to unwind with ease. I'm glad. I know for a lot of people, myself included, that this type of meditation that is almost a blend of analytical and experiential, because we're analyzing sections of the body, we're identifying tension, and then we're consciously relaxing that tension. We're getting into the feeling of it, how it actually feels, and relaxing it. It's a lot easier to focus on for someone who might enjoy making lists about every little thing, or might be an overly analytical person. It can be really helpful to have this kind of productive busy work that we can do in this session. Gurgel shared, yes, lovely pace. It felt kinder on myself, if that makes sense. I'm glad you enjoyed the pace. Yeah, the thing with leading a meditation or meditation group is, if you try to do, it's a lot easier to do a 25 minute, 15, 25 minute guided meditation for a lot of people, especially if it's their very first time, when really this full process of meditation, to be not rushed, takes at least 45 minutes. But if I sat here and led a 45-minute guided meditation, which I have a few times, it'd be a little too much for some of the people. So I just don't want to alienate anyone. It can be overwhelming, especially if you're new to the practice. So this relaxed pace is, it's nice. Instead of trying to rush through the whole process, we can just do part of the process. And if you're curious, the rest of that process would be, when we went through the body section by section, we would have kept doing that a few times until the mind started to feel like it's settling down. And then we would have went into this full-bodied awareness, and then going through fully relaxing the body, and then watching the mind. Watching as a thought, a memory, an emotion, whatever comes up, how it corresponds to tension rising in the body. And if we're really observant, we can notice that the tension in the body actually starts to form and arise before the thought comes. That's what I mean when I say that the tension in the body is the springboard for an emotion to arise. The tension in the body actually is the fuel that the emotion feeds off of. And that's why when we relax the tension, the emotion can subside. Sherry shared, I don't think I am aware of my own facial expressions a lot of the time. So it is helpful to be much more aware of that, realizing how much tension is held in the face. Absolutely. And it's not even necessarily corresponding to a negative emotion, but the face holds so much tension. Even when we're just trying to recall something, or we're trying to think in any fashion, even if we're not thinking about something that we're stressed about, just that act of recollection, that act of trying to remember something, causes the forehead to scrunch up a bit. And that's really interesting. Patterns of tension in other parts of the body tend to be predominantly dependent on some kind of emotion arising or memory arising, but that's negative. But the forehead, the area around the eyes, tend to have tension, whether it's negative or just mildly thought-provoking. One interesting thing a teacher that I enjoy talks about is that the main areas you want to focus on for relaxing tension is the forehead and the shoulders. So those are the two big areas. And one thing that I've noticed, especially with the forehead, is whatever the pattern of tension is, whether it's anger or sadness or confusion or anything, whatever that physical pattern of tension is, though it might be in different parts of the body and it might travel in different ways, there is always corresponding tension in the forehead. So by making that a predominant focus, it can kind of nip in the bud a lot of patterns of tension that tend to arise just by focusing on the forehead and the shoulders. You could even devote an entire session of meditation to just relaxing the forehead and the shoulders. And I guarantee it will probably be just as involved as this full body process. Jeff shared, it was difficult for me. My mind kept getting distracted by my surroundings the whole time. It took a lot of effort to come back to my breath and awareness, and it felt like a constant battle. Sometimes it can be like that. And part of that probably is the more relaxed pace. For some people, a more relaxed pace is more enjoyable. For other people, a more relaxed pace gives too much room for interruption. One teaching that I had heard that I really enjoyed was when we're really distracted, really easily distracted, it can be good to, when we're going through these parts of the body, how I mentioned going through them multiple times, it can be good to just go through each of these independent parts of the body for 3 breaths or 5 breaths, just staying in that one part for 3 breaths. And then moving on to another part and kind of going through that whole process. And then you can stay for 5 breaths, and then you can stay for 10 breaths. But it kind of slowly eases you in while keeping the mind occupied. So kind of, I don't want to say rapidly because it's not a good connotation, but kind of rapidly going through the different parts of the body. Noticing tension and relaxing it for 3 breaths, moving on. 3 breaths, moving on. 3 breaths. And that can help when we're really distracted, is just making it a little more fast-paced. And then gently easing into a slower pace. So does anyone, I don't necessarily have a topic for tonight in mind. I mostly just wanted to hop on and sit with y'all one last time before we resume in-person classes. Because this, I mentioned at the beginning, but I don't know how many of you were here at the beginning, that once the in-person classes resume next week, my class, the other classes that are on YouTube will still be on YouTube. The class that I lead won't be on YouTube anymore. This is the last one, just because the structure of this class is intended as a group discussion, and I don't want to discourage group discussion by having whatever someone may share be shared to YouTube. I want to create a safe and comfortable environment for people to share whatever they need to share without being recorded. So yeah. Jeff, I think that will definitely help. I'm glad. Yeah, it's all about this. A large portion of this practice is figuring out how to use a sense of ingenuity, a sense of creativity, to figure out how to tweak methods to work better for us, because everyone's different. So something that may work for someone else may need a little bit of revisioning to work for us. And that's fine. There's no set in stone absolute way to do any meditation. Every meditation is subject to revisal as necessary. In fact, when we get set in stone with anything, that's kind of counterproductive to the practice itself, because we're clinging on to something so harshly that we're preventing ourselves from being open to other possibilities. Does anyone have any questions or anything they would like to share? question doesn't have to be detailed. It can even just be a suggestion of a topic to talk on. So Sherry asked, you talked about chanting a while back, and I wondered if you ever use singing bowls. I don't know much about them. I wouldn't say that singing bowls are a large part of my practice. The only time that I use a singing bowl is when we start the class, when we end the meditation, and when we end the class. But in the past, I've used singing bowls as part of my practice, not predominantly, but so what I'll say is singing bowls can be a really useful tool. Being mindful to not let an instrument for practice become an item for collection, because it can be counterproductive. But one of the ways that a singing bowl can be really useful for the practice is when you hit it, you do a listening meditation. So I'm pretty sure the sound system picks up the singing bowl pretty well. If you close your eyes, we can just all try this as a group. If you close your eyes, I'll strike the singing bell and just listen to the sound of the singing bell as it fades. Listen to it as long as you can hear it, focusing on it, and it will fade and get quieter. And as you do that, it kind of draws the mind into that space as well. So we can try that. So that's one of the ways that you can use the singing bell to kind of get the mind centered. It can be part of I've talked many times in the past about setting up some kind of ritual before you start your seated practice of meditation. I mentioned, I don't do this anymore, but I mentioned that 3 years ago I had a specific outfit dedicated to meditating when I would meditate on my own. I would wear it, I think, in the class too sometimes, but it's just kind of this vaguely Tibetan-inspired outfit that I would only wear for meditation. So part of my ritual practice was getting changed into this meditation outfit and being kind of mindful of the body as I'm getting changed. And then I would do 3 bows, and then my chanting, and then I would start the meditation. Sometimes I'd light incense, sometimes I wouldn't. But this act of ritual before the practice helps get the mind kind of geared in towards, oh, this is what we're about to do. So the first, 10 minutes of our meditation isn't as hectic of like going 60 miles per hour and then screeching to a halt. We've slowly eased ourselves into the sit. Because you want the sit to be something that you want to develop a relationship with it where it's at least somewhat enjoyable or somewhat you feel how necessary it is while you're doing it. And if you go from 60 to 0 trying to sit, it can create a lot of anxiety. So it can be really helpful to create some kind of ritual that centers the mind before we start our seated practice. One way of doing that is with the singing bowl. You can also, I didn't demonstrate it because this bowl doesn't sing that well. It's more of a striking bowl. But if you have a true singing bowl where you can slowly go around and make it sing, you can do that for a few minutes because you have to apply a steady, even pressure and speed for the singing bowl to continue to sing. So it requires a level of focus. And then when you feel done with that, you can take the striker off, and then same thing we just did, listen to the sound as it fades into nothing. And then start the seated practice, focusing on the breath or loving kindness or whatever we're focusing on. So that's some of the ways you can use a singing bowl. Aaron asked, how often should one do a meditation like we did today? So if you found this meditation helpful or even enjoyable, and this goes for any type of meditation, when we find a meditation that seems like it really works for us, it's good to devote some time to just that type of meditation for a while to develop a skill in it. If we're always kind of shopping around for different meditation techniques, we never develop depth in any one technique. And the real rewards, the real treasure in meditation comes from developing that depth of practice rather than a breadth of practice. So how often should one do a meditation like we did today? If you found it helpful, if you found that it helped the mind settle in, helped find a sense of ease, then the question becomes, how often should one meditate? Ideally daily, for at least 5 minutes a day, working our way slowly up to a 45-minute session each day, because that's what this style of meditation really needs to go through a full cycle. Yeah. So if this meditation wasn't helpful for you, if you found it unenjoyable, then do a different type of meditation. Find what works for you, stay with it for a while, and genuinely develop it. And stay with it for a while doesn't mean a week or 2 weeks. It means several months or a year. Develop skill in a particular style of meditation. And if you're doing the same type of meditation every day, awesome. Then if you want to do some other styles of meditation to mix it in, that's fantastic too. But you should always start, if you're doing a loving kindness meditation, but your main practice is breath meditation, you should always start with at least a few minutes of breath meditation before you go into loving kindness. Or vice versa, if your main practice is loving kindness meditation, but you're going to do a breath meditation or a body awareness meditation, start with a few minutes of loving kindness to prime the palate, and then go into that type of meditation. Hopefully that's helpful. You ask 100 different people, they'll give you 100 different answers, but that's mine. Sherry shared that following the sound of the bowl is like following something down a tunnel, and it does make you focus. Yeah, it's pretty interesting stuff. We are at time, or a little over time, so we will close with a dedication of merit. And before dedication of merit, if I didn't mention, this class will resume in person. Next week, we'll have some kind of RSVP system for that, which should be live on the website by Sunday, where you can RSVP ahead of time for this following Thursday. this upcoming Thursday. We'll have RSVP and then we'll have overflow. I don't foresee this class in particular getting much overflow because we usually have, or 2 years ago when we last gathered here, seems like, we usually had a group of 10, 15 people. I don't see that changing that much. So we will have some overflow if you're unable to RSVP for any reason. Yeah. So we'll end with a dedication of merit. May any merit gained from tonight's meditation and discussion be dedicated to Duke in his time of rebirth and to all those who suffer at this time. May all beings in all directions, without limit or exception, be healthy, happy, joyful, and at ease. May we all be healthy, happy, joyful, and at ease. Metta karuna mudita upeka sahanga teya cetasa chaturisa bharatva viharati samavalarupa vena samanamarupa vena savasanharupa vena sote hantu nirantaram. Good night, y'all. I'll see at least some of you, I'm sure, next week. Enjoy the rest of your night. Bye now.